Again, my name is Charles. I am a second master's student in philosophy. Ejike, this was the most interesting presentation, and especially it's a very difficult subject, especially for us philosophers who try to philosophize things not regarding some of the values that women should have and all that. But one thing that I should conscientize you is that addressing feminism in African context is very, very tricky, and we should be very, very careful, because it is basing on African pragmatism. This is actually a title of my book, maybe, which I'll begin writing immediately after my defense in a few days to come. African pragmatism. It is actually basing on what really works in Africa. What works in Africa? I'll actually point a few scenarios of which speaks of African pragmatism based on, or which relates to feminism. For instance, the question of division of labor. Division of labor in Africa is actually a totally African pragmatism. You see, the works that are done by men and women are very categorical. Like, why should men be soldiers or defenders of the village? It really works. Then women being soldiers, it doesn't really work. But when men become soldiers, it has proven that it is really practical issue that they go out, or they can stay vigilant the whole night with their spears and arrows. They can shoot the wild animals in the woods, something like that. But women taking care of the children, washing dishes, cooking food, preparing food for the family. It's actually a very nice division of labor, which is based on the gender. It's an actual African pragmatism. There is no kind of like humiliation. No, why shouldn't women be soldiers? There's no problem for women being at home and cook for their husband. It's actually based on that. So there are many aspects of which speaks of this division of labor in African context, of which I think feminism has nothing to do in Africa in this perspective. Another thing is inheritance. In Africa, it's very interesting. When our ancestors were trying to do things relating to this aspect, inheritance, women are not given property because by themselves they're regarded as a property. So why should you give property to a property? It becomes I'm saying because it really works. They have seen this for many years, and it's actually still working. So women are regarded as a property, and the property, it is given to the prescribed individuals who have been denoted by the society. So why? So they have made this as a zigzag. I know you guys know how to play a draft, right? It's like a zigzag stuff working. Look, men are entitled to inheritance, but women are not entitled to inheritance, but they are entitled to dowries. When we are going to marry a woman, we give property to the side of a woman, right? Now, how could it be that we give them inheritance, and then when we're going to marry them, we give them other properties? You see, women could be the richest, individuals in the society than men. So they have made this like a zigzag. We don't give dowry. I don't know another term. What is dowry in another term? Mahari. Yes. We don't give mahari to men, but we give to women. You see, we don't give them inheritance, but we give them mahari, which is entitled to them with their families and their descendants. You see. So it is a zigzag way of dealing with gender issues. Another thing is about female genital mutilation. This has been addressed as a problem, but in African pragmatism, I don't want to be very don't take me in a very negative way when I'm dealing with this FGM. It has been really taken as a very negative practice in Africa by Westerners and by modern thinkers. But in African perspective, especially from the title, which I said, African pragmatism, it really based on what really works. Not based with I don't know what is is good subjectively or what. It is just what works in Africa. Female genital mutilation was based on what could be the best way of a functional society. You see, like what do we need in the society? We need procreation. Women should bear children and take care of the family. That's it. What else do women need? Okay? So how and what should be the function of men is to protect the society, make sure that the food is available at home. But our ancestors, through their experience, which is very practical, when they go maybe hunting, and they find a woman is out where looking for doing some other stuffs, you understand what I mean. So giving men peace of mind. No, it's like it's better to circumcise women so that to create a peace of mind to men when they are hunting out there, so that when they come home everything is okay. They are not disturbed with anything. So it is based on don't take me wrong. It is actually a bad thing in a contemporary thinking, but it is. I'm just saying from historical how it works. It worked. Okay. So creating a functional society, women were supposed to procreate, give birth to children. That's it, and take care of the children. What we are dealing now, like we should not circumcise women because it's not right. They should feel something. It didn't work in the ancient society, in the ancient society of Africa. So what I'm saying is, addressing feminism in Africa, we should really differentiate what is an issue and what is a problem. We can address many issues as a problem, and then we create many problems which we already have. There are many gender issues, I agree. But taking gender issues as a problem, we are creating many problems which are not a real problem. So from African pragmatism, this is the way I can approach this feminism. Thank you.
Actually, Charles, I think your contribution is, from one hand, good, but from the other hand, is anti-feminist. Because I agree with you, this is African pragmatism. But remember, when we say that this is African pragmatism, this is African culture, we are not saying that African culture is perfect. Differentiate that. We are not saying that we have a perfect culture. And since no culture is perfect, that means every culture should undergo modification. Every culture is oriented to growth. So if we, in Africa, are simplified, that there are certain things we are doing which definitely are not good, then that is the first movement towards the betterment of that culture. And therefore, when you talk about FGM as being something good from the historical perspective, definitely historically we did it maybe with a good mindset. Yeah, we have to do this because these women, we have to make them to be ours. They are there for just childbearing. But as a fact, they are not child machines. They're not machines just for creating children. These are just tools these are now, we are turning women into ART. These are machines. This is not true. If we understand that women are humans, and humans have emotions, and humans having emotions need to express that emotion, the humans having talent need to express that talent, then we should allow them and give them the room for creation. Take for instance, this woman I'm trying to mention, she's called Betty Friedan. In Betty Friedan, she in her book, she made a very, very important comment. She said, women are suffering from the problem that has no name. Historically, from the history of women, majority of women are suffering from the problem that has no name. And this is one of the statements that drove the entire modern feminist philosophy into conflict. Women are suffering from the problem that has no name. Yes. Why? What is this problem that has no name? And this was a reason why this book was among the best sold books in feminism. If you ask her, I think Father Gibson is not here. Because when I gave him something for publication, I related this to this issue. He was like, I know this woman, Betty Friedan. I know her in person. So, what am I trying to say? She said, women are suffering from the problem that has no name because these people are simply doing the same thing again and again. From morning to night, a woman, she have to wash the dish, wash the clothes, now iron the clothes, and then she come back again, she wash the dish, she iron the clothes, she cook, she come back. Every day she is doing the same thing. She's not getting bored. Yeah, is she not getting bored? You realize that most of them now are going to psychologists and telling the psychologist, you see, I don't know what is my problem, but I know I have a problem. And this is what she called a problem that has no name. Because they are doing the same thing again and again. These people have talent. Some of them can draw very well. They are artists. I have seen a girl that draw very, 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 very well. She's a good artist. But now you keep her in the kitchen, you have just to be there, you wash my clothes, then you iron them, and then you cook for me, and then you go back again, you wash, even if the clothes are not dirty, just wash them. These are humans. And that is why Betty Friedan, she is one of the most talented feminist thinker, because she said this is exactly what constitutes the problem of 90% of women in the world, the problem that has no name. And what was her advice? Her advice was very simple. You as a woman, you are killing yourself because simply you are getting bored for nothing. When you know that you are free, involve yourself into something new, a new challenge, a life challenge. If you get yourself doing something new, that will motivate you to live on. But if you are just bored in life, then you will just commit suicide. And that was her contribution in that aspect. And this is my response even to this issue of FGM, the way we think of women, but also even considering the division of labor is also a good response. But when we consider the issue of dowry, I think even the reason why we give dowry may be misconceptualized. Why do I say it may be misconceptualized? Because we are actually, from my own perspective, appreciating this family for such a lovely daughter. If I have seen this girl, I like this girl, she is a good, well-behaved person, then I'm simply appreciating the family. That's why I'm giving them something. That is my own understanding of it. But if you go to maybe in cultures like India, actually the man is the one who receives the dowry, not the woman, not the family of the woman or the bride. But in our African context, we are trying to give something to this family because we are appreciating them for having such a good, giving me such a good wife, something like that. I think that is also a basic, maybe an optimistic approach to it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for this chance. And I thank Ejike for this nice presentation concerning about feminism, and in particular in Africa. So I would also like to throw a light of how you could have looked at it. You're addressing Africa. Africa has gone different stages of development in terms of, it's not the same. So when you talk of Africa, which Africa are you talking about? The traditional Africa, the contemporary Africa? Or so in that context, if there are some issues, traditional Africa, yes, they existed, but when you talk to the contemporary society, those issues are now being addressed. But your presentation, it is something that is traditional Africa as if something is not taking place in the contemporary Africa. So your examples, I would appreciate if you give from the contemporary this, when talk of traditional Africa, okay, these are the mistakes of FGM and so forth. What are the steps concerning this feminism movement in Africa, concerning, for example, FGM? We have seen them, they're advocating it. So it is something that, it's not something that's not existing, it's existing, and then what I want to see it, you appreciate and there's effort that's taking place. It's not that we're importing and everything. Already it's taking place. So you reinforce on that. And another thing, talking of feminism is about rights and so forth. Looking at the category of rights, okay, what kind of rights are we talking about? Moral rights, legal rights. So also these are issues that we need to focus, okay, because you look at it and your presentation, you focused more on legal issues, legal systems. And in all these legal systems, we have controversial issues that cannot be addressed using that perspective. I will appreciate if rights, you could have categorized it, maybe moral rights, as something that's in front, that's binding us together. So looking at that perspective gives more weight than a legal right. With that, use of legalization of abortion and so forth. If we use legalization, it can be legal, but moral perspective, how is it? Because thus we have legalization in different countries are legalizing it or illegalizing it because of the reality. And if we are addressing this issue from a global perspective, then we need to have some grounds that bring us all together. So I will appreciate, instead of you are focusing more of legalization, focus more of moral issues that give concrete argument that we all believe, and then we have efforts that we can make to achieve it. So rather than using legalization, anything can be legal today, but tomorrow it is illegal. So we need to base our argument on solid arguments. Let's say maybe moral issues. They are more binding. And then here when we talk of feminism, rights, and then which rights? Legal, moral. So we talk of moral rights, moral obligations. So in this, it brings more reality to what you're presenting. So rather than leave it hanging, just legalization and so forth, I will appreciate if you make more focus in terms of moral contribution for feminism. So do we have moral obligation towards this movement? And then with that, and then we have good ground at least to promote or to reject it. So with that, I thank you for your presentation. So you look on those areas.
Maybe to say something why I was more related to political rights, not moral. It is simply because feminism is a branch of political philosophy. It's more connected with politics. Even though it is there it's all in all aspects of intellectual arena, we have sociology, psychology, from the branch of feminism itself. But feminism as a discipline in itself is a political discipline. So, what are the women trying to fight for? Their rights. So, it's more of not moral issue. Even though justice in itself is not a moral issue from strictly political philosophy, it's a political issue in philosophy. Justice is part of political philosophy. So when we look at it more, feminism is categorized by scholars as a branch of political philosophy. And that was why I was more of connected with political rights than moral rights.
I was very keenly listening to your presentation, and on that ground, I'd like to congratulate you. By the way, I'm Symphorian Kirama. I'm from Philosophy 1. Well, on my side, I'll stand with the motion that the pumpkin of the old homestead should never be uprooted. What do I mean? The good cultural morals which have been feeding the society, the African society to today, should always be considered positive, and also should be undertaken in a positive way. When you try to consider women from previous time, for instance, our parents, my mother, and also the other women of our African societies, the life that they used to lead, they used to respect men, they used to respect the society, and this was how they are brought up, you know. But currently, I would like to give an example of Oprah Winfrey. This is an African-American woman who is quite rich. Now, the land African women in our society today are even taking to vivify this in our universities, and also our university, for instance, of Juko. Most of the young ladies who, before becoming a woman, one must first be a lady, and to be a strong woman, you must make your grounds, you must make the foundation strong when you are a lady. So most of the ladies nowadays want to be Oprah Winfrey, you know, in such an amazing manner or an astonishing manner. I can call it a negative way, you know. In this kind of negative way, maybe I'll be harsh. Most of them want to be Oprah Winfrey by opening wide their thighs. Hopefully you understand what I mean. Of which it is eventually something which is not very okay to our society and also to their future. You see, you understand? And such kind of a thing makes them to always be dependent to men. Young ladies nowadays are educated, are favored, you know, in the aspect of education. But when they, for instance, I did a small research, you know, I tried to question most of the young ladies who are approaching to the university level. You know, most of them, when you tell them what is your motivation, you know, to go to the university, they won't tell you that I want maybe to do something, you know, I want to do something that I may become someone better in the future, but they'll tell you, I'm going to be free. You know, when I'm in the university, I'll be doing something that I want, you know, I can go anywhere I want. But the notion of becoming a better person in the future, you know, is not in their mind. So I tried to sit and think this, what is the impact, you know, of this kind of people in the future? Do you think they'll liberate themselves from being dependent to men? And it's vivid in our communities and our society nowadays. Most of men, you know, they are always like this with the clouds, you know, waiting for the young generation to come up, for instance, from the secondary schools to the university, that they may pick one by one of their interest. Now, when these young ladies are coming up with the same notion that when I enter the university, I'll be free to do what I want, it's the same thing that they want something cheap, you know. They want to be Oprah Winfrey's in a cheap manner. They don't want to struggle. They don't want to make themselves. So such kind of a thing, in such kind of manner, will always make women in the future to be dependent to men, you know. And they will still always lamenting that, you know, we are not showed the way, you know, things are not okay with us, we are not favored, such kind of things. But in a real sense, they are given a very good foundation of making themselves better people in the future. Better people in the future to be respected. Better people in the future to make a better society, a better world to live for themselves and for men. Trust me, if a lady who is very keen with a man, who supports a man intellectually and physically, trust me, that man will cherish that lady and they'll grow up together. But nowadays, ladies want cheap things. They just want to stay and to stay and to be dependent and to demand by opening their thighs, which is something very negative. But in a special way, if they could settle with someone, think with someone, and build their future together, I tell you, these women will be prosperous, and the sphere of the world, the face of the world, will be a better place to live.
Earlier on the negative aspect of feminism, why we don't need feminism? Because as you are just trying to say, already Africa, we are simply appropriating feminism. We are on the process. We are appropriating feminism. So definitely one impact is exactly what you're trying to say. Women are now free, and people are bound to misuse freedom when it counts. So many of them are misusing it. Because now there is legalization of even abortion in the Western world. Now abortion is gradually taking place in Africa. Now they can do it. Because already now some families are already divorcing. I can now divorce even my boyfriend. I sleep with him today, I just dump him. I pick another person. Because the cradle of virginity is no longer there. So I can flirt anyhow I want. So this is among the negative aspects I was trying to elaborate that feminism can unfold in Africa. I think it's a nice conclusion.